the electoral map of this country. How many constituencies are in Kiambu County?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I know there is Githunguri constituency, let me number them. There is Githunguri, there is Kiamba, there is Lare, there is Kikuyu, there is Thika, there is Ruiru, there is Gatundu, the two Gatundus, Gatundu North and Gatundu South. I should think this would be it. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There should be about 8, if not, if maybe more, but these 8 I can remember them.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Koki, do you have a follow-up question?
No, Chair. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, and how many wards in Baringo, since that is home?
I'm from the lower part of Baringo. I'm from Mogotio, and I cannot hazard. I know that there are 3 wards in Mogotio constituency, but I cannot hazard the number of wards in the entire Baringo. But if we were to look at the 6 constituencies, then it should be something in the region of 18 to 20.
Okay, thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Lorot, when your career is looked back on, what would you like to be remembered for in terms of integrity and professional conduct?
Thank you, Madam Kiome. I presented before the commission the finding of the vetting and judges and magistrate board, and because this was also an analysis of career up to and including that period. And if you look at from paragraph 32, I don't know where the document is, but if you look from paragraph 32 onwards, you will see that by the time the vetting board was making a finding, it said that I am hardworking, I am forthright and honest, and I think that those will be the hallmarks of anyone who wants to be received in any career. And I think that's why I said it was a very humbling report. I actually asked my mother whether she can use the same terms on me, and because I'm her son, I will not reveal what she said, but I think it was very humbling. Thank you, Madam Kyo.
As a magistrate, I presume that you experience difficult and dilemmas, issues coming to you to rule and to make judgment. Some, maybe those that appeal to your emotions and things like that. How are you able to separate yourself as Abdulqadir Lorot so that you are able to serve your clients impartially?
To be very honest, Mr. Chairman, it has taken time for that to evolve over a period. Because when I joined the judiciary, I was a fairly young man. I was unmarried. And then when you're married, and I think one of the incidences that took me by, I think, and I always remember, is when I worked in Gatundu Law Courts, and there was a minor, 2.5 years old, who could not testify because of age. And when this was a defilement case of a minor boy, I had my son then was around the same age, and when the testimonies were coming, I could only reflect on my son. So the distinction between personal emotions, it takes time to grow out of it, because these are emotional issues. But I think I am fairly, I have fairly grown in emotional intelligence over my very many period of service, and I'm able now to distinguish between my own and the emotions of others, looking at my own weaknesses, where my weaknesses fall in terms of certain biases that I have as a person who grew up, for example, in conflict areas, because my grandparents came from Kapedo, and as we all know, Kapedo is a war zone. So having grown up in those, so when I see, for example, when I was new in the judiciary and I would see cases of people stealing stock theft, it would affect me much deeper than I think it would affect the next person. So over time, I've grown and been able to accept that these are the realities. And now, while I cannot they say that as judges, we are still, or magistrates, we are still human beings and products of our own society, products of our own biases. I am Muslim, for example, and there are certain tenets of Islam that may not be condonable. So I've been able to separate what are my own biases with what is before me, and this is possible to do, and I think that is the reason why I've been able to sustain myself in this position and grown from the position before over a period of time.
Thank you very much. Just checking with you whether you have been able to present to us your clearance certificates and all of them.
Yes, I have. I presented all the clearance certificates. In fact, there was someone to assist with all of them. There's a checklist actually that was prepared.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You have responded to our questions. I would like to thank you for your time and to appreciate that you have taken judicial diligence in responding to our questions and preparing for this interview. I don't know whether you have any question for the panel so that we could be able to engage.
I think I do not have a question, just to appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, and the panelists. First, for out of all the applicants for shortlisting me, it's not a mean feat. I come from a minority community who have not been recognized for a long time, and I think this is a first. Secondly, I think I want to appreciate the fact that you have been very kind and very kind to me, and this has been a dialogue as opposed to an interrogation. So I really appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, together with the panelists, and I wish you well in your ventures as you continue to interview the rest of my colleagues who will appear before you, and I wish you grace.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that you spend time. There's a bottle of water there. You can pick it as you leave. The Secretariat will support you if you need a cup of tea so that you can travel back. Did you say Naivasha?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, please take our regards to the people in Naivasha. Please remember to pick your certificates so that you don't leave them with us. We appreciate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Asante.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, members of the press. Can I ask you to give us some time? If you just leave your cameras, but so that you allow us to be able to, yeah. Yes. So they're disconnected. Yeah, but
employed for the election petition of 2013. I come from a community, the Muslim community in Mogotio, and I think the larger Rift Valley, the larger Baringo, have held me in high esteem, and I have been their trustee for the longest time. We have been able to do a lot of work as a community. We have put up several mosques. We have been able now to put up water for use by these mosques and alleviate certain things about school fees and things for our Muslim community within Mogotio. Basically, I do not want to speak about the good things that I have done as a Muslim, because I expect my reward to come from God. But in the judiciary, I have served well as chair of several committees, including the chair of job evaluation and job description and evaluation, lastly, which was used by the Judicial Service Commission to negotiate with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission for the judiciary.
Fair enough. Briefly, why do you think you are suitable for this position?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first witnessing of an election was somewhere in 1988, which I was still a minor, but I witnessed an election where there was Mlolongo at the time. Having seen how parties would come with their photographs, hold them, a party candidate, their photographs will be on their head, and then people come to line up behind them, and then they would now tell others not to come and line up behind this candidate and push them to the others. I saw quite a number of malpractices around that time. My experience in Tana River was that there was ethnic clashes, but the underlying reasons that were there for those ethnic clashes had something evidently to do with the devolution system that the country was adopting, and there was a community that was feeling that it would miss out on leadership in this area, and therefore instigated violence so that there would be transfer of voters from one area to another. I think I'm suitable. I have held positions within the judiciary where I have discharged my responsibilities with utmost integrity and with efficiency and with professionalism. This job, before I applied, I had a discussion with people who matter to me, including my family and members of my family. And one of the things that was going around is that this is a very heavy position. This is a very tough job. And that even if you are a good man, chances are that you will walk out tainted. I said, this is the period where patriots step up and say that their country needs them. And this is the time, looking at what happened in the last election and what happened between the commissioners, I think this is the time to consolidate whatever we have so that we can at least induce in this institution some level of confidence and give it credit with members of the public, because there is a bit of loss of confidence in the institution, and I think good men must step up for this position.
So fair enough, you're suitable because you think you're a good man.
Not just good man, I am professionally qualified for the position. I've also served, and I know and understand how to manage organizations.
Thank you very much. I will ask the Vice Chair, Ms. Linda Kiome, to take up the next section. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable Lorot, the IEBC Act, it envisages a commission that comprises persons with mixed sets of skills and disciplines. Please tell this panel the skills and competencies that you possess that brings in a new form of aura for purposes of your work as a chairperson of the commission.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. First and foremost, the constitutional requirements are that you should be an advocate of a certain number of years in practice. Secondly, I have, like I've said, I've not just been your traditional judicial officer who sits in court, goes home. I've also served in capacities where my decision was required for the purposes of greater good of both the institution and the country. I bring in the skill sets of competence. I bring in the skill set of collegiality, and teamwork and being able to achieve within a team. And I also bring a skill set of my professional qualifications as an advocate and having served. Like I forgot to mention that I have been a trainer with the Judiciary Committee on elections, and I have done 2 election disputes before me. And from from those 2 that I have been able to handle, I was able to mine what is some things that are important to bring changes into the institution of the IEBC. When I handled the election disputes before me, I was able to determine that there are gaps here that needs to be filled, and these are important tools that I bring with me. I also bring with me the judicial approach to issues. I'm a judicial officer, so I'm bringing with it decision making, where we import those values that come about with our decision-making approaches, where we do fairness, we ensure that parties are happy and are pleased with everything that we do in the determination of disputes that come before them. I bring also I think I want to wrap this into the commission. I actually want to say that there is infusion of integrity. There is a infusion of integrity into the institution that has to come from the commissioners themselves, who must lead from the top. And I think I'm that person who will be able to lead from the top with that integrity. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you.
Did you say you have any other training other than your legal and law training?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I am a continuing student of Masters in International Conflict Management. The only thing that I think remaining for me to conclude that is deliver my report. I had a discussion with my supervisor in early January, and I'm able to complete this so that by September I'll be able to graduate. And the reason it has delayed particular masters is because first I felt sick in the beginning when these issues when I concluded the coursework, and then thereafter I took up a task to do an interrogation of the conflict between the Pokot and Turkana, because it is home to me, and there are dynamics that are changing every single day, so I keep changing and reviewing my position on certain things.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to ask member of the panel, Madam Caro Kituku, to take up and ask you some questions. Caro.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Honorable Lorot, you have told us that you have not been a traditional judicial officer, in your own words, quoting you. The IBC chairperson is expected to have a legal background, which you have. So now please tell us, as a judicial officer, how have you contributed or been involved in elections or any electoral matters? And while at it, tell us what has been your major contribution to the electoral processes in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kituku. I have handled, like I have said, 2 election disputes, and they were election offenses. And there were serious election offenses that were the results of which were being awaited by the Supreme Court so that they can make a determination on a gubernatorial issue. And in the process of going through this election dispute that I handled, I was able to find gaps in the IEBC processes. For example, it was evident to me that those people who were charged before me, some of whom were IEBC officials, had one or two of them had been charged because they had forgotten and put every document inside the ballot box, so the ballot box could not be opened. There are documents that they are not supposed to put in the ballot box. So some had placed everything in the ballot box, and that raised suspicion that this ballot box is needed now to be reopened so that those things could be removed. And the suspicion on the candidate that lost was that this was intentional, and that there was stuffing of ballots, so that there was no scrutiny of the unused ballot papers. I think from here, I was able to find out that fatigue is a critical issue that affects election processes, and somehow IEBC as an institution has to create a policy on how they relate to this issue of fatigue during the electioneering process. Secondly, like I said, I was selected as one of the trainers by the Judiciary Committee on Elections to train my colleagues, and through a team we were able to train our colleagues in the preparedness for election. When I was Secretary General of the Kenya Magistrate and Judges Association, this was between the year 2009 and 2013. And in the year 2009, there was a petition. There were petitions that were ongoing from the 2007 election cycle. And from this cycle, we were able to note that one of our judges, Justice now President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Musinga, was able to handle a petition in Kisii within 6 months. And then we said, if it can be done, then it's something that we are able now to create the timelines for it and then make proposals for it. So this is how, as a Kenya Magistrate and Judges Association, we are now able to now drive the effort that our colleagues and every one of us is able to conclude election petitions within 6 months. Secondly, I forgot to mention that I was representing the judiciary during the writing of the Constitution. The Committee of Experts needed to consult with a group called the Reference Group, which incorporated professional bodies and other bodies of interest to the country, like TSC and others. So, Kenya National Union of Teachers and others. And in this process, when writing this constitution and those aspects on the election, I was able to make the contribution, having gone back to my electorate, which is the Kenya Magistrate and Judges Association, and finding out their views on how the election process should be and whether processes can be concluded within certain timelines. And I think that is the contribution I have made, and possibly now it's my opportunity to make even bigger contribution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
What is that you call bigger contribution?
There are bigger contributions to be made in this institution, in the sense that there are recommendations that were made by the Supreme Court in the last election cycle, and part of that is concerning timelines, how we are able now to negotiate these timelines and create greater period. Because when we were writing the first Supreme Court rules, election rules, to try and balance these timelines of 14 days was very difficult. How then are we going to give parties time to file their documents, within which the time frame for filing documents, and ensuring that by the time the petition is ripe for hearing, there is sufficient time. And you would see that the Supreme Court is always caught up by time. That's why they have to hear cases late into the night. And we are all glued, and I think the tension in the country is even much there's gripping and much more difficult. Of course, there are those who enjoy the sessions, but I think it's important that the Supreme Court is given sufficient time. So one of those would be that timeline. The second one would be the corporate governance of the IEBC.
Procurement of IEBC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Firstly, I think this is what the Supreme Court talked about, corporate governance of the IEBC. Having defined and definitive roles for chairman, the commissions, how they relate with the CEO alongside other members of staff. Structured, the IEBC is that the CEO is the accounting officer, and therefore IEBC does the procurement through what is called the best practices for procurement is to do procurement through committees that are set up within the IEBC and are gazetted for that purpose internally, or either gazetted or internally circulated by the accounting office. First, as chairman, my responsibility, and I think also of other commissioners, is policy oversight, and policy oversight and strategy. As to the day-to-day and actual running, that should be done by those who are tasked with the functions of pushing everything. So as chairman, we receive recommendations, so we approve what strategic guidelines are offered by the technocrats within the IEBC, because we will not all be technocrats or have the know-how on every bit and aspect of the electioneering process. So I think first and foremost is that to reduce this issue of conflict between chair and CEO on specific things like procurement, the only thing we give will be oversight and also directions that this is the type of things we need, this is how to be procured, but the participation of the chair in the procurement process, I think, would be faulty and wrong within the procurement laws. The chair can only give directions so that the CEO and others are able to function. This is what is expected of an institution, so that we have institutional framework where it functions with directions from the policy and oversight.
Thank you.
Okay, next I'll ask Evans Misati to ask some questions.
Thanks so much, Mr. Lorot. Now, on the same forum on the issues of IEBC, the chairperson and the secretariat, you have said that the commissioners have to provide oversight and directions. But you realize that the general public recognizes and the buck stops at the commissioners. But the people who are conducting the actual operations at the Secretariat. So in your own view, what do you think should be done to make sure that the people, the buck stops at them, they have the control, as much as we have that oversight and directions? So how do you define the working relationship? Assuming you are given this position as the chair, how will you define the relations, or what structures will you implement to ensure that that is done?
Thank you, Mr. Misati. You have correctly pointed out that the public looks at us as the ones who we are the face of the commission, and I think that should not stop. The face of the institution should be represented by the chair and the commissioners. That should not stop, because that is the face of the institution. But the institution functions through the Secretariat. They are what we call support services. So what happens is that it is through creating defined roles. We have to go back. We have to go back. But if I'm appointed to, if the committee, the panel recommends that I become chair, one of the first things on the tray would be to ensure that these roles are clearly defined, and we get into the recommendations by the Supreme Court that we have clear guidelines on corporate governance. I'm sure there are documents by IEBC. I'm sure they have not been sleeping. They have been preparing these documents is to look at what has been happening and where there is gaps, how to now improve them. But the communication of everything about the commission should be left now to the chair, so that if there are issues that are for communication, the chair can delegate this function. But for communication of serious aspects of the commission should be left so that the public is aware we are procuring. When we say we are procuring, it's not that the chair is procuring. It is the commission that is procuring through various committees. You would have perhaps a chair of that committee for procurement would be a commissioner who is well versed in aspects of procurement or public finance. And therefore, when they are making the recommendations through their panel papers to the commission, it comes to us, and then we approve, or we make changes, or we say these are issues we now need to go and negotiate with finance so that there is disbursement of funds. And I think that is how a proper system works.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Misati.
In answering that question, you talked about various committees. Do you want to speak about those committees, whether they are existing or the ones that you think you come up with as a chair?
I think there would be critical committees. I think I can't speak about the ones that are there or not, because I'm not sure at the moment what exists in the infrastructure of IEBC as committees. That would require insider information on the operations of the IEBC. But I think the best way would be to approach issues through committees. I think the ones that just come right into my mind would be a finance committee, a committee on legal legal, a committee on voter education, a committee on voter education and registration if it is to be merged, but if it is to be separated because of the critical areas that each of them faces. I think also a committee on media and outreach and communication, and then a committee on monitoring and evaluation and planning. Monitoring, evaluation and planning. Those are critical committees that should be there in every institution.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I'll ask Ms. Fatuma Saman to interact with you briefly.
Good morning, Mr. Lorot.
Good morning, Fatuma.
Stakeholder engagement is a critical component of a successful electoral process, and particularly to position the IEBC as an impartial arbiter. So would you tell us what experiences you think you'd be able to bring on board that can help ensure that that component is taken care of?
Thank you, Fatma. Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention, and I think it was a very serious oversight, that I have been the chair of the Court Users Committee National Steering Committee from its inception up to the year 2022, when the National Council on Administration of Justice decided that that position ought to be handled. I think they made certain changes within their structures, and that position now needed to be handled by a judge. So I was replaced by my Lord Justice Mabea. But I have been chair since its inception, and Court User Committee is about stakeholder engagement. It's about, first of all, mapping out the stakeholders and having clear outcomes. In this position as Court User, as a chair, national chair of the Court User Committees, it was something that was achieved through the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association, so that I don't take credit for the fact that I became the first chair by default. But we were the institutional memory of how the institution of the judiciary operates. We realize the judiciary is not alone. When we get the flack for things that are going wrong, sometimes it's not ours. It is because certain stakeholders and critical partners and actors within the justice chain don't operate properly. So stakeholder engagement is actually my greatest strength. We'll be able to map out who are our clear and direct stakeholders, right from from where we source our mandate and funding, and ensuring that we have representation from all sectors in the electoral players. This also includes having direct links with the strategic groups, particularly those special groups like persons with disability, persons with women and on gender, not just women. It's about gender, to have a gender reflection, having involvement of the youth. And now that this country has a youth purge, I think it's important for us to have that type of stakeholder, and also now have also stakeholders from voter educators, have stakeholders from observer missions, observers, both local, international, and sometimes individual, and then also have stakeholders from those who provide services to us. These are critical. Those will be providing services to the IEBC. That will even include the legal service providers, those who will be doing the printing, not necessarily those who will be doing the printing, but from where we will now be able to obtain our materials and day-to-day running and operations. So mapping out the stakeholders and reflecting on them, on their impact and our involvement with them. So it's very critical.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you for the question, madam.
How will you structure your engagement with stakeholders?
I have had a glimpse of the IEBC stakeholder engagement operation plan, and I think they are on the right track, in the sense that we have the identifying. First of all, it's identifying stakeholders from the processes of the mandate of the IEBC, and the mandate of IEBC, besides election, also includes the boundaries and delimitation. So we structured from pre-election and during the election and after the election. So it's important for us to structure them along those lines so that we don't have just stakeholders joining, but they are of no relevance at that particular time. So pre-election, one of the critical areas I think would be like for example, let me take an example of the judiciary as a critical stakeholder of the IEBC, is to prop up judges and magistrates and prepare them, and so that they are able to be prepared for the election processes as they come. One, we have pre-election, we have election offences, we have cases that may come earlier in time, and then prepare them on the laws. And then critical aspect also would be what laws are available. Having a parliament as a critical stakeholder and how you engage with them on that. So it's just structuring them around pre, during, after elections, and then also on the services.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask the Honourable Member Nicodemus Bore to also engage you kindly.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lorot. I've seen you have a long span of service at the judicial service, and we would like to know whether you have had an experience of conflict on ethical issues and how you have managed to handle it during your time of service.
Thank you very much. It is reported when I appeared before the Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board, I reported, and I think I even had the judgment then. An advocate, I was handling a simple matter, I think, when I was in Milimani Commercial Court, and I think an advocate approached me in my chambers and said that he has been sent by his client, and I did not let him speak. I told him it was pending ruling before me the next day, so I asked him that he appears in court the next day so that I read the ruling. He didn't appear. I forced him to appear, and in my ruling I specifically mentioned that he had approached. And the most I think interesting part is that his client won the matter, and one of the penalties I gave the client was I did not award costs to the client because of that infringement, and I reported the matter to the Law Society of Kenya. So I'm very strict about my integrity. I think in my career, I have a very good wife. One of the things she has told me is that I should never come home with corrupt money, because that will affect my children and everybody else.
A second question would be, having been, from what I've seen from your CV, yes, you are a chief magistrate.
Yes.
And there must be cases that are political in nature. And is there a time that we have had political pressure on or social or financial that could compromise your judicial decisions?
No, I think the clear cases of this nature that you mentioned happened to me when I was in Machakos. I handled a very contentious case involving procurement, which was the first procurement by the county government immediately after the transition authority, and I think the county government procured second-hand vehicles, and through processes that also involve the Commission on Administrative Justice and others, and the EACC, they charged certain individuals before me. And I just handled it as a normal case. You would see the information in the papers appearing every time, but it is an ordinary case that is before me. I'm supposed to make the determination based on the law and everything that comes before me. This is the type of person that I am, and this is the type of person that I'm presenting before this panel.
Thank you very much.
Professor Adam Solo, kindly will you also ask some questions?
Thank you, Chair. Bwana Lorot, both in your oral presentation and from your CV, it is clear that you served as a commissioner of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into the ethnic clashes in the Tana North, Tana River, and Tana Delta districts. And you did tell us how you completed that work under your chair. However, what you didn't tell us is whether the report brought a lasting solution to the conflict that you are addressing. Maybe you can take an opportunity to tell us whether that conflict continues. The reason why I ask this is because the body that you ask to chair is one that needs to resolve perennial challenges, as you clearly stated in your opening remarks, and you are seeking to sit at its apex. Therefore, the country and the panel is looking at when you are given an opportunity to give a lasting solution. Did that solution come, or there are still clashes? And if you are given this job, what assurance do you give that sitting at the helm, not just as a commissioner like in the other one, you'll bring that sanity in our electoral process?
Thank you, Daktari, for that. I want to start by saying that we delivered our report to His Excellency the President. The President who had appointed us, at the time we were delivering our report, had already left office, and so we delivered to the new President, which was His Excellency Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. By the time we were delivering the report, we looked at, there were 3 tiers of issues that we looked at from the Turner Commission. I think I can sum up as 3, but there may have been more. The first one was with respect to the ethnic clashes, the threshold of genocide, or whether they met these variant thresholds of because there was displacement, there was murder, there was clear organization, there was all those things that fitted this billing. Then the next stage that we looked at were the perpetrators known. Fortunately, we had witnesses who testified before us, and from there we were able now to involve the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution to act on them, and charges were preferred. In fact, from our report, we had a separate report on those to be charged from the recommendations of the Commission. And those who were charged, the cases were ongoing in both Garsen and Malindi High Courts. And in some instances, I think for those that occasioned gender-based violence, those who were charged before the Garsen Court, that was the first recommendation that we made. And I think in the other recommendation was about economic activity, because what were the triggers of this violence? The triggers, we noted the triggers were related to resource conflict. They were also triggered by just inter-ethnic clash. There were communities that had never remarried. They had never intermarried in that area since time immemorial. And in fact, they used to live separate. We would find this is the village of this particular community. I don't want to name them. And this other community. Whether our report succeeded is you can see one of the efforts that we tried to look at was the land structure and tenure in Tana. And one of those issues were resolved, I think, by placing some of the land into agricultural for purposes of ensuring feeding of the country. One of the achievements we can say from our report was when we said Tana River can actually feed this nation, and if it is possible for the land tenure system to be looked at fully, then it can work. As to whether it was implemented, the implementing authority was the executive. So I'm not sure, because I didn't follow up. I went back to my court work immediately after that, but I should think that from my observation, there are some changes. Yet I can see there are returns of there's return of some of this chaos, and from this that is why that's what actually pushed me to go and study international conflict management as a master's program, and actually to just be able to and that's what has taken a bit of time, because I'm also looking at myself as an informant in my own research paper. So I'm gathering that information for purposes of ensuring that this is protected and preserved, and for future purposes of enabling the commission, institutions such as the Commission, to see that there is an interrelationship between resources and election and electioneering malpractices.
Thank you. You told us that you have been in service 23 years and counting. If we were to make you chair, what would you like to be remembered for in the judicial service on your professional conduct? How would you, if you were to succeed and now you go to the commission?
I think my colleagues on the bench I would like them to they would respect me. I would like to be remembered as a person who was respected by my colleagues and my peers. And I think that is sufficient for me, because that was a service and I think I needed to be respected. I think I am respected by majority of my colleagues on the bench, and I have cut out a career that has spanned all these years with service and honor.
Thank you, Chair.
Have you ever sought to be promoted to the higher court?
Yes.
And what experience have you had there?
I applied to be promoted to be judge. I went through an interview. There was no complaint on my part. I went through a process of interview, but the selection was for the Judicial Service Commission to make. I was not one of those selected at the time. And I think that's all I can say. I was not selected at the time. I have applied once.
Thank you. FCPA, Tanui, kindly.
Thank you, Chair. Still on areas of leadership and integrity. Lorot, you've confirmed to us that you are a serving chief magistrate.
Yes.
Thank you. Under Article 260, judges and magistrates are listed as state officers. In our advert that we did put, for which you did your application, we indicated that arising from Article 88.2, people who hold state office are not eligible for appointment. Being a judicial officer, what is your take? Thank you.
I noted that on the advert, and I also noted that there are instances where, because I'm serving state officer, I'm coming for an interview, I will resign from my position if the panel were to appoint me, and I think that is the position I took. I took precedence in what has happened before when I think the first instance of such a case was the late Nkaiseri being a member of Parliament and as a state officer was appointed as a cabinet secretary. It has happened before. Even now we have two. We have the former MP for Ugunja and the former MP for Gwasi, who are both state officers when they were members of Parliament, and they were selected to join the cabinet secretaries, to be cabinet secretaries, which are also state officers. So there is precedent that that I'm not just coming here because I'm a state officer. I'm coming here because I'm coming for a job interview for a state office. My take also on that is that it wishes to remove persons who are not. Let me just finish with what I just said earlier. Yes, I think there is precedent for me. What happened in the past.
Thank you very much. So you think there is no conflict between who you are and what you are seeking to do?
I do not think there's any conflict.
Okay, thank you. And you will be ready to resign, that's what you're saying?
Yes, I will be ready and willing to resign instantly, once confirmed.
Thank you. Professor Adams, do you have some other questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, Bwana Lorot, you gave us a history that as a minor, you started becoming interested in elections, the Mlolongo, the famous or infamous Mlolongo in 1988. So I'll just ask you a general question because you seek to lead the IEBC, and therefore I believe you are very much aware of the electoral map of this country. How many constituencies are in Kiambu County?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I know there is Githunguri constituency, let me number them. There is Githunguri, there is Kiamba, there is Lare, there is Kikuyu, there is Thika, there is Ruiru, there is Gatundu, the two Gatundus, Gatundu North and Gatundu South. I should think this would be it. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There should be about 8, if not, if maybe more, but these 8 I can remember them.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Koki, do you have a follow-up question?
No, Chair, thank you. Okay.
Okay, and how many wards in Baringo, since that is home?
I'm from the lower part of Baringo. I'm from Mogotio, and I cannot hazard. I know that there are 3 wards in Mogotio constituency, but I cannot hazard the number of wards in the entire of Baringo. But if we were to look at the 6 constituencies, then it should be something in the region of 18 to 20.
Okay, thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Lorot, when your career is looked back on, what would you like to be remembered for in terms of integrity and professional conduct?
Thank you, Madam Kiome. I presented before the commission the finding of the vetting and judges and magistrate board, and because this was also an analysis of career up to and including that period. And if you look at from paragraph 32, I don't know where the document is, but if you look from paragraph 32 onwards, you will see that by the time the vetting board was making a finding, it said that I am hardworking, I am forthright and honest, and I think that those will be the hallmarks of anyone who wants to be received in any career. And I think that's why I said it was a very humbling report. I actually asked my mother whether she can use the same terms on me, and because I'm her son, I will not reveal what she said, but I think it was very humbling. Thank you, Madam Kyo.
As a magistrate, I presume that you experience difficult and dilemmas, issues coming to you to rule and to make judgment. Some maybe those that appeal to your emotions and things like that. How are you able to separate yourself as Abdulqadir Lorot so that you are able to serve your clients impartially?
To be very honest, Mr. Chairman, it has taken time for that to evolve over a period. Because when I joined the judiciary, I was a fairly young man. I was unmarried. And then when you're married, and I think one of the incidences that took me by, I think, and I always remember, is when I worked in Gatundu Law Courts, and there was a minor, 2.5 years old, who could not testify because of age. And when this was a defilement case of a minor boy, I had my son then was around the same age. And when the testimonies were coming, I could only reflect on my son. So the distinction between personal emotions, it takes time to grow out of it, because these are emotional issues. But I think I am fairly, I fairly grown in emotional intelligence over my very many period of service, and I'm able now to distinguish between my own and the emotions of others, looking at my own weaknesses, where my weaknesses fall in terms of certain biases that I have as a person who grew up, for example, in conflict areas, because my grandparents came from Kapedo, and as we all know, Kapedo is a war zone. So having grown up in those, so when I see, for example, when I was new in the judiciary and I would see cases of people stealing stock theft, it would affect me much deeper than I think it would affect the next person. So over time, I've grown and been able to accept that these are the realities. And now, while I cannot they say that as judges, or magistrates, we are still human beings and products of our own society, products of our own biases. I am Muslim, for example, and there are certain tenets of Islam that may not be condonable. So I've been able to separate what are my own biases with what is before me. And this is possible to do. And I think that is the reason why I've been able to sustain myself in this position and grown from the position before over a period of time.
Thank you very much. Just checking with you whether you have been able to present to us your clearance certificates and all of them.
Yes, I have. I presented all the clearance certificates. In fact, there was someone to assist with all of them. There's a checklist actually that was prepared.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You have responded to our questions. I would like to thank you for your time and to appreciate that you have taken judicial diligence in responding to our questions and preparing for this interview. I don't know whether you have any question for the panel so that we could be able to engage.
I think I do not have a question, just to appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, and the panelists. First, for out of all the applicants for shortlisting me, it's not a mean feat. I come from a minority community who have not been recognized for a long time, and I think this is a first. Secondly, I think I want to appreciate the fact that you have been very kind and very kind to me, and this has been a dialogue as opposed to an interrogation. So I really appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, together with the panelists, and I wish you well in your ventures as you continue to interview the rest of my colleagues who will appear before you, and I wish you grace.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that you spend time. There's a bottle of water there. You can pick it as you leave. The Secretariat will support you if you need a cup of tea so that you can travel back. Did you say Naivasha?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, please take our regards to the people in Naivasha.